Hey everybody, Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. You're beautiful, and I appreciate you tuning in. If you guys could subscribe, that'd be swell too. Hit that like button, comment, you know the whole YouTube deal. Also, Tobin and Leroy coming at you now on a new handle, but the same channel. It's 104.3 WQAM. It's there in the description. If you guys can subscribe there, you'll get my radio show every single weekday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we're back at it tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Leroy and I were texting back and forth a lot during the show today. I was getting a lot of snark about the outside runs to start the game, but then was getting more pleased as we got more stuff up the gut. Now, that did not happen in the first drive, and you know the jokes were aplenty and they were funny with the way the first drive went. But again, it is a first drive, so I don't want anybody getting too crazy about it. People are getting nuts with this preseason, dude. I think we're just so... I'm trying to get a theory on it. I'm trying to get a grab on it, on where everybody's at, because at one point I thought it was apathy. Then I think anger hit, and now I just think people really just miss football. And I was hearing some loony stuff today from just the YouTube, Twitch commenters, people who wanted revenge for this joint practice that was going on with the Chicago Bears. People in the Bears media are making fun of people in the Dolphins media because the Dolphins media is calling it dirty. I had Omar Kelly on the pregame show today. He stands by it. He's calling it dirty. I'm not here to say Omar can't feel the way that he is, but Omar's out here almost like with a pitchfork. He wants the Dolphins to go and slug every single thing with the Chicago Bears logo on it. I'm trying to reason with people. This is a preseason game. You are not going to care about this in the span of 3 weeks. We will never speak of this joint practice again. It does not matter. It really, really doesn't. And the only thing that did matter, the only thing that was of note, was Dolphins fighting themselves, which now turns out to really, it didn't turn out to be too big of a deal. Terron Armstead, who may need a hobby, but he is doing fantastic work with his podcast. And I just say that lovingly because Terron Armstead, I mean this wholeheartedly. It's awesome. Terron Armstead is going to be very good at this media thing if he wants to. He's going to take it to the moon, wherever. But this man just spent knee replacements and ligament replacements and damage to his body. And I would just feel like if I was Terron Armstead, I'd want to take 1 year and just lay in a hammock. Have some Mai Tais, whatever. Just party, But this man is immediately on the sidelines of his old franchise, grinding the tape, and is bringing beautiful nuggets to the Dolphin fan base. And it was basically revealing what the beef was between the Dolphins teammates. It was Jordyn Brooks got mad at Terrel Dodson because Terrell Dodson didn't hit somebody on the Bears offense enough. And to defend Omar, Terron Armstead did say, the Bears were taking liberties with some of their hits. And you saw one of them today that affected today's roster because Jalen Waddle got hit by, I believe it was Tyreek Stevenson, former Cane, and he didn't play today. I mean, they said, he got dinged up in the middle of a practice, and they didn't put him out there today. So certainly there were some ramifications being in a preseason and all. That's fine, but it did affect him. But as far as the beef was concerned, it was just Jordyn Brooks being turned up to 100 because, well, that's how Jordyn Brooks plays football. And I do think that he brings a lot of what Dolphin fans are looking for this team. But that being said, I mean, it is a joint practice. And I do think that Mike McDaniel handled this well today. Because people were talking, they were saying Tua was making a big push to make this happen. I don't know what's what. Tua's no, this was Mike McDaniel's decision. It's his call. He said I was going to play a drive no matter what. It did happen to be a drive where he got a lot of work, 15 plays or so, and Dolphins took up a lot of clock. It did not end in points, unfortunately, because they couldn't stick it in. But one thing is they did end up doing it by the time everything was done. Mike McDaniel didn't, though, have any publicly didn't put out any ill will about how the Chicago Bears. And quite frankly, you can't. The only thing that would have been worse than getting your ass kicked would be whining about getting your ass kicked. But also, you weren't going to get any revenge in this game. And I was like reading a lot of tweets and comments about how, like, yeah, the Dolphins, don't be surprised if there's going to be an extra edge to today's game. And I'm like, am I taking crazy pills here? This is the first preseason game. This is a step above a walkthrough, right? Like, yeah, there's real hitting. Yeah, the Dolphins can, get their rookies to finally get a taste of live physicality. Yes, the bullets are real. Yes, Zach Wilson has the pocket presence of a naked mole rat and kept just bumping into sacks. But all that being said, it's not going to be anything anybody remembers. Usually and typically, you will remember two things from preseason games. Incredible performances that you'll mock later on because it was in preseason, or catastrophic injuries that should have never taken place in the first place. That's it. That's the list. You won't remember anything else from preseason games. I would venture to say, like, give me the last reaction you had to a preseason that was good, that you didn't go back and be like, that was reasonable for us to have that reaction. You haven't. It's been, you remember the first year they had Ndamukong Suh, how good that defensive line was when they dress rehearsed, and it was incredible. And then, like, the year started and nothing. Skylar Thompson, Eric Ezukama, the Montana and Jerry Rice of the preseason. And by the way, Skylar Thompson still keeping it up, right? Shout out to him. But it all just comes back to mock you of like, yeah, but it was preseason. It's not that you can't get anything from the preseason, but it's like because I think a lot of things were affirmed today, and I think that was good. But I didn't understand this mindset from everybody that, like, the Dolphins needed to get revenge for what happened on Friday. My guess is what happened is Ben Johnson, he comes from Man Campbell over there in Detroit. He is trying to change a mentality over in Chicago. All of the buzz leading into that joint practice was how the Bears were fighting each other and they were hitting themselves and taking liberties on hits. And that's how they're going about it. They're playing a little over the line. And the Dolphins defense and Jordyn Brooks seems like, he wanted to bring the volume up a little bit more. And Terrell Dodson did not. And it just ended in like something silly that will look really bad on Twitter and social media videos. But ultimately, Mike McDaniel said they apologized, that it's like a sibling rivalry. Terrell Dodson said the same thing, that this was just a sibling back and forth. This was not something that is going to linger. They were celebrating each other during the game, so that was all awesome. And all in all, I do think the Dolphins have squashed a lot of the drama. Now, to bring this back to my previous point about preseason, they've done a really great job of squashing it. Even the Tyreek Hill thing, I think, has been way overblown. Like I was watching the this interview with Rich Eisen and Mike McDaniel talking about the Tyreek Hill thing, and Mike McDaniel, he basically speaks in Sudoku. Like, you barely can understand a word he's saying, and people were trying to decipher, like, oh, is everything cool here? Because Rich Eisen kept saying, well, are we good, Mike? I'm like, when did I hear something that said like they weren't good? Because I keep hearing, Tua, he had the comments where, like, he said, we're not all the way back, which he did say, but he also said that off of like, hey, he's gone through a lot, very human stuff from Tua, where he was like, hey, he's gone through a lot this offseason. He's been more vulnerable than ever. He really is trying to change as a guy. I really think that Tua has taken a lot of things about Tyreek Hill, and he's kind of come at it with a really understanding eye, knowing that this guy is, brought with he's almost like a bit of a caricature. There is Tyreek Hill, and then there's the cheetah. It's like, it's a little bit of, it's almost like the regular person and the superhero, and how he goes and plays. But even Tua was doing an interview with, I think it was Sirius XM, and he was saying to the effect of this whole thing and where things are at, and he says, the relationship's in a good spot. He said that the relationship's in a good, he says, we're in a good spot. He knows what he said. He wishes he could have taken it back, but you've also got to see where he's coming from as well. The frustration, where he's coming from, the winning, and then coming here. Obviously, in my position, injuries and all that, you got to take everything into account. You can't just wash it away. You got to talk about that. But outside, we've had a good amount of conversations, and having those conversations, I really like where we're at and where we're going to. And so I feel like a lot of this, Cheetah and Tua and it doesn't feel like this is in a tumultuous place going into the season. And, I know there was a report that said, other teams are monitoring the Tyreek Hill situation. Like, look, this goes back to my point about preseason. I think everything can be good here. It's going to be a matter of what the Dolphins do in the first 4 games of the season. That'll probably determine where things are going with Tyreek Hill, with the drama of this team, with the attitude of this team, with the bravado of this team. Because you can say all the right things in preseason. They tried to do that last year. And I do think that the Dolphins fans who are dying to see all this stuff turn around, they just got to wait for it right now. Like, anybody who's rats off a ship, like the way the first drive ended, was that objectively hilarious? Yes, it was. But should you jump off a roof through it, or through a window, or whatever part of the house you want to jump from or through? No, I don't think you should. And I think that a lot of the good stuff that people have been talking about with this camp, I do think that showed off today. So, and part of that I think was the one thing I would say was probably a mild surprise has been the other receivers. I think everybody had a good feeling about Malik Washington, but Taj Washington played really well. You had the nice reception by NWI, and then even some of the other bottom of the roster guys showed out. Tight end room, maybe worse than we thought it was. That I'm not sure if that's going to, it'll depend, I guess, on Darren Waller and what he does. But, yeah, that didn't exactly show its face to be too great. But, this whole dramatics of this week with the Bears, and in all honesty, I don't know if this was trying to make good, maybe mend fences with Mike McDaniel or what, but Ben Johnson was like effusive in his praise with Mike McDaniel, that he was like, this guy is one of the mad scientists. His run game is like none other in the league. He has things that, I was just like, whoa, all right. So is he doing that because he genuinely feels that way? Maybe. Is he doing that because he feels bad because Mike McDaniel's like, I'm not going to be a little baby about this, but you guys know what you did? I don't know. But Mike didn't whine about it. They took it on the chin. They played a solid game today. And all the drama does seem to be squashed with it. It'll be interesting if the same thing goes around. I'm more interested in like the joint practice this week because, all right, you're going to Ben Johnson's old stomping grounds. It's like the two polar opposite identities of teams, right? Coaches, teams, all that. And the Lions, ever since the Dolphins throttled them a couple of years ago, they've kind of gone in like opposite directions as teams. So it'll be an interesting week from that perspective. But all in all, I thought it was a pretty interesting game. I think we got a lot of answers that we were seeking, but nothing should be set as a determination just yet, or a declaration as of yet. It's August 10th.